Hey up guys, how's it going? Hopefully you can hear me. The sound of the little lambs and the chainsaw over there. Well, anyway, out for a little 5k today. But today I want to talk about something that I've had a lot of questions about since I released my 100-mile running film, which you may or may not have seen. If you haven't, go and check it out. There's a little link there. But basically I've been asked a lot about my running strategy. How did I break it down? You know, did I walk some? How much of it did I run? So in this little video today, I'm going to be talking about that. I'll just give you a few ideas on how you could tackle it if you're thinking about doing an ultra or a long run. So basically I'm going to give you 8 tips that you can do and implement before the run starts, as well as 5 techniques that you can do during the run. That is our topic on this beautiful spring morning. I hope the weather stays like this a bit, because I, for one, am fed up of... There's a new path there. Let's take it. See where it takes us. Yeah, I am fed up. But this... Oh, Jesus. I'm fed up with this crap weather. Come on. Hey, up number 63. How are you doing, 63? About ponds and rivers and stuff like that. Every time I pass one I just want to look in it. I've always been like that. Even as a kid I was just like, love looking in there for newts and frogs. Nothing in there apart from a few snails and stuff, but hopefully as spring kicks in we'll start to get some more life in there. Yes! I read somewhere once that to run takes about 23 more calories than to walk a mile. Okay, they did a study, I think it was Harvard, I don't know, and the participants used an extra 23.5 more calories per mile just by running. And that's one of the reasons why you need to have a run, walk, jog strategy when you're doing a 100-miler or anything more than sort of marathon distance, because 23 calories is not a lot in the grand scheme of things, but it is over a long distance. Now if you're anything like me, what you'll tend to do is have like no strategy at all. And I did this for years, you know. My strategy was redline it as far as you can, and then just before you're about to bonk, die, whatever, hang in there and just try and survive. And you know what, it did me well. It did me well in the MDS, it did me well in Peru, in the Amazon jungle, but it didn't serve me well on the For Rangers Ultra, which I attempted 2 Septembers ago, and I got really ill. From there I changed things up. I got a coach, I worked on my technique, I really started to consider a timing strategy, a running strategy and all that kind of stuff, and it paid off, as you've seen in the 100-miler documentary. Now the fundamentals of ultra running is pretty basic, okay? We've got to get from A to B, usually by a series of aid points or checkpoints, and it's just a case of keeping moving, keeping going to cover the distance, okay? Therefore, actually, it boils down into a series of problems that we've got to solve in order to obtain our goal. That's what it is. Speaking of problems, I don't really know where I am now. I was following this footpath and it just seems to have disappeared, so I'm going to retrace my steps, get off this, what is obviously, you know, it's a golf course, you know, it's private land, so I'm going to get off this private land, retrace my steps and get back onto a route that I actually know. But it's been nice to have a look round. Okay, tip number 1 then is you've got to have a plan. It sounds really obvious, but like I said, for years I didn't have a plan, you know. I just went as hard and fast as I could, thinking running was just pretty basic, just got to get from A to B and away you go. But you do need a plan. Okay, so tip number 1 is plan ahead. I spent a lot of time before the 100-miler just strategizing where I would be at certain points, how fast I would go, how many calories I want to eat, how much water I need to drink, all these kind of things. Now, without obsessing about it too much, It all paid dividends. So make sure, tip number 1, you've got a plan. Tip number 2, and this is a psychological strategy, hand in hand with that, creating a plan ahead of time, okay, is to create what we call if-then statements. So an if-then statement is a mental roadmap in your mind that when things go wrong or something happens, okay, you've got a pre-planned strategy to deal with that. And what's good about it is that if you think about this stuff ahead of time, when you're in a logical state of mind, you'll come up with a better idea than when you're in the middle of a race, really fatigued, not thinking straight, okay, questioning all your decisions. At least you'll know that you came up with this plan at a time when you had lots of energy and you was thinking straight. Okay, so create your if-then statements. An example might be, if I am running out of water, then, okay, you know, you can come up with your plan. Or if I find I'm going too fast, then I will think, if I get a blister, this. If I'm ahead of time, then I will do this. And like I said, there are pre-set strategies in your mind that you can follow if things start to go wrong. Number 3 is all those strategies you've come up with, write it down. Okay, for me, I had a spreadsheet that I gave to every member of my crew just to make sure everybody knew what my strategy was, what the pace was going to be, what kit I wanted at certain times, how fast I predicted I would go, what speed I needed to be going, cut-off times, variations to the routes, all these things. Now again, you don't need to get mega obsessive about this, but you do need something committed to paper so that you can refer to it. Throughout my 100-miler, I was constantly relating and talking about the spreadsheet that I was following. It definitely helped as one of my secret weapons to success. Just coming up the hill. That was not 23 calories more. Jesus. After that, I've just written it down. Pretty basic again, but something that often gets neglected. Brief your crew, find time, sit down, let them know what your plan is, let them know what your strategy is, come up with ways where they can help you implement it. It can only help. Okay, number 5 is you've got to test it. Whatever strategy you come up with, test it. Test your kit, test your food, test your hydration, and test your pace. The more you test it, the more trust you're going to have in it. And sometimes you just need to be able to trust your decisions and what you're doing. During the 100 mile, I was questioning things so many times. And if it wasn't for a strong team with Andy and Joe and the paces that I had, I probably would have tried to change the strategy and that could have worked against me. So test it, build some trust in what you're doing. Number 6, quite poignant really, just looking over this valley, bit of downhill now after the steep hill, and that is make the most of the easy miles. Now it's something I was told by a very good runner once when I first started getting into like trail and ultra running, and he said, you know, I said, what's one of your tips? And he said, I always try and make the most of the easy miles, taking the surroundings. You know, you've got plenty of hard, tough miles coming up, okay, so if you get a chance to look around and the terrain's a little easy, okay, make the most of it. And I'm not saying sprint off, because, you know, sprints, walks, all that kind of stuff can be quite detrimental to your overall pace and your overall level of fatigue. But what I'm saying is, take it all in. The mind is an incredibly powerful thing, and if you can distract it with the views, talking to someone else that's doing the race, by talking to the crew, make the most of it. You've got to recruit everything you can as an ally in your pursuit of your goal. About this time last year, I did a race called the Ice Ultra in northern Sweden. Incredible event. Now what was different about this event to a lot of the events that I've done in warm climates or in the UK is that actually, because of the cold, because of the temperatures, you feel compelled to keep moving. Now that's not always the case, especially when you're in a warm climate doing something like the MDS. Actually it's the opposite. You're compelled to stop, you're compelled to sit and rest, drink more water. So my next tip number 7, as I faff around with my notes, is to minimize that faff time. Okay, minimize the time that you're in checkpoints, that you're in aid stations, okay, that you're messing around with gates, messing around with kit. Okay, if you have 2 minutes at every aid station, at every checkpoint, that can soon add up. For me, it's about 15 different aid stations throughout the whole 100-mile route. If I'd have had 2 minutes each one, that's half an hour gone. Half an hour of my race that is very, very unlikely that I will get back. So really, really do concentrate on getting in to the aid stations and out in good time. And remember that most people will jack it in near the aid stations because it's comfortable. Get out and get moving. You're much less likely to jack it in when you're halfway between aid stations because there's much more at stake, you know. You've either got to track back or you've got to keep going. Therefore, you do keep going. In a big ultra, there's going to be lots of ups and downs, and sometimes it's just a case of hanging in there until your current down turns into an up. Two things that are going to have a massive impact on your pace: hydration and fueling. Okay, you know it. If you watch any kind of videos on YouTube, lots of people talk about this kind of stuff. I've got videos on nutrition and hydration as well. You can watch those for some ideas, but you've got to keep on top of it. It's got to be part of your overall strategy, because if it's not, it will slow you down, and that's physiologically. Mentally, you might be able to pick yourself up and regain some time, but if you start going down with dehydration, a lack of nutrition, that's going to smash you hard. So make sure you keep on top of that. Next up, I've got 5 techniques which you can actively use to break up your run and to come up with a strategy for running that 100 miles. Okay, so 5 actual techniques that you can use. Sorry about squinting in this sun. Beautiful sun, but it's definitely making me squint. Okay, 5 techniques that you can use. Now, what I suggest you do, don't stick to any one technique. Rather, make like a blend of all these different techniques, okay? You come up with your own strategy. Remember, ultra running is a series of problems that you need to solve. And you can do that with lots of different running techniques. Here goes. Okay, number 1, an overall technique is to slow down. Again, I know you've heard it so many times and it feels like you're banging your head against the wall, but everybody goes way too fast. I know I did. Okay, so really, really slow down. One way to remember that, the guy posted on one of my Facebook posts and said, if it feels easy, you're probably going too fast. And it's exactly right. You know, I thought, oh, this is pretty comfortable here at this pace. Turns out I was on for like a 4-hour marathon, way too quick for me in a 100-miler. Some people that might be an ideal pace, but for me, a bit of a chubster, not really a regular trainer, it was a bit too fast. Luckily, I managed to get through it okay. Okay, technique number 2 is to walk for 10 minutes of every hour that you're running. So even before you start to feel the effects of fatigue, before you start to really slow down a little bit, just preempt it, and for every hour, just walk for 10 minutes. And I've seen people use this to really good effect, especially on the MDS. You know, people with long, flat salt plains, early part of the day, and they would set off, and within sort of 40 minutes, they'd be walking, and I would talk to them and say, you know, what are you doing? And that's just part of my strategy, you know, walk for 10 minutes of every hour. That really did seem to serve them well. Happened here? Breaking the sign. I'm supposed to knock the sign off. Okay, number 3, quite a common one, and that is to walk the uphills. Okay, sometimes later on in the race you might have to walk the flats as well, because at 100 miles, even the slightest incline can just feel like you're absolutely moving up a mountain. So even on something like this, with like a gentle incline, it can actually take a lot of hard work. Okay, next one, we've got these lampposts, okay, and you can use these, anything that kind of marks the terrain. I call them thresholds, okay? Humans love thresholds, we love a deadline, we love a date to work towards, and you can use it in your running. So with these lampposts, one strategy you could use is run a lamppost, jog a lamppost, walk a lamppost, or even switch it up, you know, run 2, jog 2, walk 1, whatever you think will get you through. Okay, the last one stems back to my military days. We used to run along, we used to count out our steps So running along or marching along, okay, and sometimes you get your head caught up in that. You wouldn't worry too much about the pace because you were just listening to the number, concentrating on the foot hitting the floor, okay. One thing you can do is you can count your steps. Maybe run 100 steps, walk 100 steps, or maybe even count every other step. So instead of going like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, like that, you can do 1, 2, 3, you got it, 4. This is something I like to do a lot, especially on the treadmill. Obviously, in my head, I'm not some kind of freak who talks to himself in the gym, but I find it really does help. Take your mind off it, just get into the pace, get the job done. Is that freaky? Anyway, remember the old Windows screensaver? You still have that, the old Windows XP or whatever it was? Isn't that the same colours as the Windows XP? Whoa, beautiful day. Oh, there's a little homestead over there. You can see the house. Now I can see it, but you can't. We've got a couple of new lodgers. I'll introduce you when we get back. There you go. 8 tips, 5 techniques. Something just bit my elbow. Now, like I said, this isn't the most extensive list of ways that you can crack a 100-miler or to work out your run, walk, pace strategy for an ultra run. But it's definitely some food for thought. Now, if you've got other ideas, other things that you do, then please join the community. Don't just be a voyeur, weirdo. Post it below in the comments. Fellas, what are you doing in there? You're not chickens. You two are not chickens. You're goats. And I bloody built a freaking climbing frame out here for you two. Come on. Come on. You guys, come on. Skidoo. Come on. Anyway, these are the new lodgers. I think they're a pair of chickens. We built all this. Climbing frame, seesaw, bridge. Where do you see the sodding house inside? Put down a patio for them, built a bloody ramp for them. And this is a house. We got a bloody indoor gym up here, across the bridge. Mess around in there, another bridge. Got a bloody mezzanine deck. So you guys goats are chickens, because if you're chickens I want some eggs. You've got to start earning your keep. Say hello, Eric. Say hello. You can't have that chicken food. No, 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 you're not having... Hey, come on. You're not allowed chicken food. This is Vinny. Vinny! Yo, Vinny! Spud me. The wife's goats. She does love them though. She really does love them.